Welcome to today's ECE Power Hour, where early childhood educators come together to reflect and learn and shape the future of education. I'm Erica Sicosio, the moderator for today's event, and we are going to have a conversation that's long overdue. One that centers on us, the educators. Over the past year, we have faced so many challenges, adapted to new realities, and done our best to support children and families. But today, we're taking a moment to focus on how we can better support ourselves as educators and each other. In today's roundtable, we are exploring self-care, leadership, collaboration, advocacy, and mentorship, and why these are essential to our personal and professional growth. We'll also dive into the importance of play, not just for children, but for us educators too. How often do we take time to laugh and play and engage in activities that spark our own creativity and passion for teaching? This isn't just about making it through the day. It's about fueling ourselves so we can continue to inspire and nurture the children in our care. Today, we are joined by a group of passionate educators, podcasters, and some of which I am so grateful to call my friends, bringing together their own unique perspectives to the table. We'll reflect on the lessons that we've learned over the past year and talk about how we can use these insights to guide our focus for the year ahead. And along the way, we'll talk about some important things. And so I'm going to give everybody, without further ado, a chance on the mic. We'll just go right down. We'll start with Jamie. Introduce yourself and tell us the name of your podcast and just, a short little synopsis about yourself.
Of course, this is so exciting. Thank you for organizing this. I'm Jamie Wagler. I'm from Stratford, Ontario, and I host the Forgotten ECE podcast, which is all about before and after school educators and that group that kind of gets forgotten.
Susie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susie Begin. I am an educator, daycare owner, and I'm also the host of the ECE Classroom. And I do a lot of other things too, but there's a long laundry list.
Kayla, you're next.
Unmuting myself might be a good idea. Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Papalia. I am from ECE Honestly, a podcast all about talking about some of the truths that we may not want to hear when it comes to the world of early childhood education. I am from Port Moody, British Columbia. I am also the owner and operator of an in-home multi-age childcare here in Port Moody. And I've been in this field probably 11, 12 years now. And I like pot stirring. That's what you need to know about me.
You're going to bring the spice to the show. I apologize.
Yes. Of course, girl, you know it. And I'm Latina, so yeah.
I hope I don't pronounce your name wrong. Is it Avita? How do you say your name on?
Advad. It's a very hard name.
Not hard. I just can't get it.
It's okay. Most people can't, so I don't really take them personally. I'm Adva. I'm from the Shaping Little Minds podcast. I give teachers basically implementable tips and tricks to bring into their classroom if they need it. My podcast is actually bite-sized information, so like 8 to 10 minutes, as long as I don't have a guest, so that teachers can really listen to it on the go. And I am from New Jersey. I teach full-time. I went back after 3 years, and also mentor teachers as well.
Melissa, you're next.
So I'm Melissa. I'm a New York City public school pre-K teacher, and I host Pre-K Spot Talks. And I am all about spreading the play-based love.
Yes, we love that. Carla.
Hello, my name is Carla Ward. I'm the host of the Everything ECE podcast, which is literally about everything to do with early childhood education. I am from Mississauga, Ontario, just outside of Toronto, and I have an education business from consulting to running courses to the podcast.
Next we have Kate.
I am part one of Childcare Conversations with Kate and Carrie. We are based out of Texas. We have been in the industry each over 30 years. Started out as an in-home program, multi-site program, and we have been training directors across the country for the last 23 years. And I don't know, we're on year 5 of the podcast. So we are so excited to join y'all. And you Canadians are awfully close and dear to my heart since I am an unofficial dual citizen. One of these days I'll make that happen for real, but that's where my father grew up, and he didn't become a U.S. citizen until I was like 18 or 19 because he wanted to drive a bigger boat. But that's a whole other podcast. So with that, I'm going to flip it over to my other half, or my business partner, or also my cousin. So.
Well, I don't think she left anything for me to say, which, we support directors and owners because there are so many people helping all of the teachers, like most of you guys, that sometimes the directors get forgotten, and the directors have to be there to support the teachers, and so somebody needs to fill up their cup. So next we have Marcia.
Hi, I'm Marcia Cole, founder of I Aspire to Educate. I am also the host of the Inspiring ECE podcast, where I talk about all things inspiring, motivating, and empowering educators to thrive throughout their profession, as well as a huge advocate for educator wellness and well-being.
For those of you who don't know me, I am Erica Sacosio, the host of the Child Care Directors Chair podcast. I am a coach. I am a multi-location owner, and I, like Kate and Carrie, am all about feeding my administrators love and support that they need. So we all have so many great perspectives that we're so excited to share with you today. So let's start with, right, because I really want to focus on the folks right now in the field, right? So I'm going to throw this question over to my friend Marcia in the corner here. How do you prioritize self-care in a profession that asks so much of us every day?
One thing I want educators to know and to do right away is stop feeling guilty about it. Your self-care is important. We need to remove the stigma of guilt around it. We're always pouring from an empty cup. We can't do that. So stop taking the guilt on. You need to take care of you. So number 1, let go of the guilt. Number 2, do what brings you joy. We always do so much for everyone else. What about us? I know my friend Carla loves to read a book. I, not so much. Audiobooks now are my love language because I can do it on the go. So find out what brings you absolutely joy and do that. The smallest things, like even finishing that cup of coffee that's actually hot, that you didn't have to warm up 20 times for the day. Like, that's a win. So celebrate the little things and really find out what brings you happiness. That's my piece.
Love it. Anybody want to add? Go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to add that's awesome, but I was just going to add like setting boundaries, which is huge for me because I am not great at it. So setting boundaries to protect your time and your home time, not blurring those lines, and then also being a part of a supportive community like this, and being able to, like, it's not just about rest, it's about fueling your passion that drives you to make a difference for the lives of the children. And like these things that we're doing and these roundtables, it's a huge way to do that.
I love it. Yeah, Melissa, go ahead.
I wanted to say something really similar to Jamie, especially like public school teachers. I'm lucky enough to have a union and a contract, and holding those boundaries that your contract allows you. We're helping newer teachers understand that protecting your prep time, we're allowed 50 minutes of prep time. That's how I make sure I get my work done so I don't have to bring it home, and making sure, and nobody's allowed to tell me what to do with that prep time except for myself, and making sure I'm doing things like protecting that prep time and helping myself and other newer teachers understand that making a fuss about that is not making a fuss. It's protecting that contracted time and understanding that that's okay. You're allowed to ask for that.
Yeah. Susie, I know you wanted to add to that.
Absolutely. I just did a workshop with a group of educators about educator burnout. And so the definition of burnout is consistent stress that is not managed. And I think we forget about ourselves when we don't manage our stress on a daily basis. We just let it accumulate till it gets to a point of burnout. And so I think we just have to be aware of ourselves. And this applies to all of us here in this room. This happens to me this past week. I was just feeling myself burning out because I was just under a lot of stress that was continuous, one thing after another. And so you just need to be aware of yourself, and as Marcia said, just not be afraid to look at yourself and go, okay, I need a break right now. I need to just do something just for me, something that I like to do, and not feel guilty about it, and not worry about the 10 million other things you have to do on your to-do list. Just, focus on yourself, get yourself back to, a little bit of equilibrium, and then you're ready to deal with the next stress. So not just like let them accumulate, because that's what's going to eventually burn you out.
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
I was kind of raising the roof, but yes, I had something to think about it too, which is we talk a lot in early childhood education and early education in general, whether out of school time or in our programs, about helping the kids regulate their emotion. And we use the term co-regulate. Well, for us to co-regulate, we have to be regulated. So teaching the kids how to take deep breaths and count backwards from 7 and things like that. For them to co-regulate, you have to be able to handle your emotions. And so if we're not sleeping, if we're not eating, if we're not coming to work when we're feeling like we've got a cold coming on, every time that kid does that one thing in your room or in your program that drives you bananas, you're going to lose it. You're going to snap at a kid. You're going to say something you shouldn't have said to a coworker, to an employee. And so us doing some self-care might be as simple as what we teach the kids to do. Wash your hands and then put on hand lotion. Take a deep breath of the fresh air when we walk outside on the playground. Like the stuff we teach the kids to do, we have to remind ourselves that we as adults should be going outside every day in the morning and in the afternoon so that we're getting some sunshine and some good breath. So I think we need to remember that if it's good for the kids, it's also good for us.
Kate, you wanted to add something?
Erica,
Yeah.
can I wrap? I would love to just add real quick, for those of you who are listening who don't actually know what this means for you, other than myself, because I may not be the only person who's listening to this going, self-care, like I'm not really sure what that means. When people used to ask me, I'd be like, I like to organize my calendar. I had 4 kids at home. So, 4 kids and a spouse and business or 2. And so that took some planning. It's not necessarily about getting your nails done or that pedicure or that massage, because there was a time period where that felt like an obligation and there was nothing relaxing about that. So you might have to start with literally a couple of times a week, find things that make you laugh or put a big smile on your face. And I loved the coffee example, because for the longest time, my 30 minutes a week when I really had to try to figure out what was self-care for me started literally as a cup of coffee and playing with my poodle. So it's okay if you aren't really sure what that looks like, and you can try the things that people say are self-care for them. But yours may look very different. It may be a hike, it may be a swim, it may be, playing a board game. It may be, playing a video game on your phone and that's okay.
All right. You want to add?
Okay, sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. My big thing when I talk to other teachers, especially, is giving yourself time to decompress in whatever way that looks like. Again, that's I guess another way to say self-care. And this year, something that I've been implementing is just coming home and having 10 minutes of silence. Because being in a classroom can be really overstimulating, especially in early childhood. And I don't remember who said it, but someone said about regulating, I think it was Carrie, who said regulating your emotions, it can be really hard to regulate your emotions after you've just been overstimulated for a full day as an educator. So for me, my peace and quiet for 10 to 15 minutes after school is done is like the biggest, has made a big shift in the way I approach the rest of the day.
Alan, you have anything you want to add?
I didn't raise
Okay. So there's a couple of things I'd like to say, and those are all amazing tips, ladies. So thank you so much for sharing. I think for myself, when I think of being a leader in my program, it's so often we want our staff to take care of themselves, but do we always, right? Do we come in sick? Are we there from open to close? Are we being a good role model, right? So often we talk about like silly ways that we will reward our teachers by like, oh, we bought you pizza or we brought you donuts, right? So maybe it looks like, you stock the refrigerator with different flavored water and tea and things that will help people be able to take care of themselves while they're at your center. I can't tell you how many times I've eaten animal crackers for lunch or haven't packed a lunch, and you're kind of eating on the fly, right? So I try to do those things now more than I had in the past. And so I think that is, again, when you're the leader, you got to remember, you got to lead by example. And the other thing I think is finding joy in the things like somebody had mentioned, like stroking their dog, their poodle, like that brought, I think it was Kate, brought her joy, right? Finding the things that really spark your passion for life, not necessarily about education, but for your life, I think is so important to do that. And be reflective, because if you don't ask yourself the question, you may just kind of breeze over it. So just really being reflective too of what really does make me happy. What does decompressing look like for me, or what does self-care look like for me? So I think checking in with yourself and checking in with the folks around you, and being a leader and an example. So let's go to our next question. Why is play critical for educators, and how can we incorporate more of it into our work to stay energized and engaged? Go ahead, Carla. She's like, me.
Oh, I was excited to answer this one. So first of all, life is way too short to not play. Like, we hear all the time that age is just a number. But when you think about, so early childhood education, it's fun, it's lively, we play. Then somehow the school system, and if you're in the school system, I'm sorry, it like sucks it out of you. It just sucks that joy and that innovation, that creativity. Like, it is not designed, like I tell people all the time, the school system was not designed for people like me. I showed up, I was a good kid, I did my work, I got okay grades, but I could not wait to get out of there and do what I was meant to do. And so I feel like early childhood education has allowed us to continue to be, I don't even want to say children, but feel like we actually have life inside of us. And there's joy. And, what career path, honestly and truly, wants to know your favorite dinosaur? Like, who goes to work other than ECE and gets to say, well, my favorite dinosaur is a triceratops, right? Like, hello, like that is so much fun. And so play is part of that. And we can play as adults. Like, for me, putting up my Christmas tree this week was play, right? So play doesn't have to look like playing dinosaurs, but playing is important. Getting your hands dirty, doing a craft, going into nature. Right? Play could also be, having a little fun on your phone. But to me, play is so much it's so three-dimensional. But then also, like, to make sure that you are playing at work is look at your space. What does your space look like? Does your space represent who you are? Right? If you don't like your classroom environment, change it, because you have to be there all day, every day. So how can it be more playful for you? There you go. Love it.
Go ahead, Kayla.
I just wanted to add to Carla talking about joy and play, and I love your dinosaur comment because I love dinosaurs. Anybody who knows me knows I love dinos, so thank you for that. But I wanted to add too that I think we're also in such a unique position where we get to see every single day how joy can be found in the smallest things, right? And so feeding off that energy, I think, is so important. Like, I'll give you an example. The other day, I had a little guy who was so excited because he found the most beautiful rock in the forest. And it was just the most amazing thing in the world. And he had to take this rock home to show his mommy and daddy just how phenomenal this rock was. And when you're surrounded by that, just that limitless joy, it does something to you where you're like, oh yeah, there is greatness in the smallest things. There is there is beauty in the littlest things, right? And so that is so wonderful to be able to constantly be in the proximity of wonder and of awe and of seeing the world through little eyes.
And Melissa.
I just feel like play is so important for educators because play is important for children. So like, why wouldn't we play with our kids, right? So I feel like Carla and Kayla said it so beautifully, and we all know that play is learning. So when you're playing with your kids, you're all learning together, and it allows so much space to feed off of one another and respond to one another and bring all of that joy that Kayla was just talking about, right? Like, or even just co-regulate like we were talking about before, or even just like be in each other's sadness. Just, I'm thinking about my teacher bestie. He taught pre-K with me last year, and he went through a breakup, and he was really, really sad the next day in school, but he knew he had to come to school because it actually was better for him to be at school, and he couldn't hold it back, and the kids were like so great with him. And he found it was such a profound moment for him because they were taking care of him, and he found so much joy in playing with him that it made him feel better. And just having those moments of play and joy and response and being together is what play brought out in everybody. And because he was a play educator, it just brought community and peace and just all the words. I can't even come up with all the words because there were just like so many words that it brought. But it's so important for us as educators to bring in because it's just so important for children to experience. And I just wish it could go beyond ECEs. And I feel like we're all mostly ECEs of the 5s and unders. And I feel like this needs to speak to ECEs of the Ks to 2s as well. And because just like Carla said, I'm in the public school system, and this is why I fight so hard for play in the public school system, because it does suck the life out of kids sometimes as much as I wish it didn't. So we really need to just bring the play. It's so important for everybody because it's natural, it's authentic, it's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. Hold on, Jamie. Carrie, go ahead.
I just wanted to say Ankylosaurus is the answer to Carla's question. Ankylosaurus is my favorite dinosaur. Also, the quote that comes into my head every time we talk about play is Albert Einstein. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's kind of dumb, but he said that play is the highest form of research. So if Albert Einstein can play, and that's what allowed him to revolutionize the way we think about the universe, maybe more people should be playing, and they should get their paints out and they should get their blocks out, and every adult should be giving each other Legos or paint sets. Like, those are socially acceptable play for adults. So give it to other adults and make them go out and play and build with Legos, or give them clay. That's also apparently adult, socially acceptable play, because nobody's going to give you flack because you started doing pottery, but they will if you say, yes, I just spent 4 hours on Fortnite, right? But so thinking through, how do we help other adults, the parents, the administrators, the teachers, giving them opportunities for play throughout their life.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I'm so excited because this is like the school age topic and the learning and through play all the way through. And it's so true. Like it stops at an age and we lose it. But I agree as adults, I think, I guess I'll wrap it up like this, like a quick little thing. I think that we would have better adults in a lot of areas if they all took time to play than we currently do now. And looking directly at our political areas in both Canada and the States. I'm sure if they would take some time to play, it would be a little bit better. But and then Carrie, you said about Fortnite, and I'm laughing because I run a nursery school center, but I am not very good at it because I spend a lot more time in the classroom than I do on the administrative stuff I do by choice.
And I was just in the classroom the other day with the school agers. It's my favorite group. And they were saying they're bored because that's what they like to say. And we ended up making our own Fortnite characters and building our own 3D town or village, or they get mad at me when I say it wrong, but you know what I mean? And it's taking that all the way through from EC, just like you said, all the way through all the grades. There's aspects of play that we could use all the way into adulthood. And it's so important that that gets pushed and stood up for.
Hey, Susie.
I'm chomping at the bit here, guys. I want to chime in here so badly. I have 2 books. Okay, one's called Learn to Play. The other one's called Parents Learn to Play Too. This is my thing. My mission is to teach people to play, because play is how we learn. Whether you're 1-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 50-year-old, this is how we learn. We learn because we like something. We like something that we're doing, so we learn about it. And that is what play is. Play is joyful. And so learning to play is like my mission for people. If you take nothing else away from this, it's play, be curious, tap into that childlike innocence within you, and just go with it. Be inquisitive, ask questions, like look at the world in a different way. And other people have said the same thing. Look at the eyes, like look through the eyes of a child. You'll find so much new about everything you thought you knew that you didn't really know.
Go ahead, Carla.
There we go. It's being weird on the muting. No, I was just very excited because I was like, yes, absolutely. And I couldn't help thinking about exactly what we're doing here. None of us were podcasting in kindergarten. We all ended up becoming podcasters because we wanted to play. We wanted to do something and we were curious about it. So I just felt like I had to give a shout out to all of us as podcasters because based on what Susie just said, that's play is how we got here.
Yeah, Kayla.
I just want to add, Carla, you know that all of us were the little girls who got the speaks too much on the report card evaluations, right?
Well, or maybe he has excellent leadership potential.
Yeah, for sure.
Or just downright bossy.
Those are good skills to have.
Or all of the above. You never know.
Okay, quit telling on me.
Wait, can I just
Yes,
add
of
something?
course.
I just realized, I don't know why I just realized this right now. I've been married to my husband for almost 10 years, and I just came from like one of those like trampoline adventure parks, and my husband was inside the dodgeball area with all of the kids, and I just realized that I'm married to a man who loves to play. And I don't know why it took me this long to realize that, like, this is probably why I married him and like why I like get along with him. But like, yeah, play is important for everybody.
Yeah. So I think you know, there's so many ways to think about it, but I can't imagine any other field where you can like have Play-Doh on your desk, come to school in your pajamas if you want, break out into song in the middle of a classroom, or tell jokes, right? This is a place for children. We should be smiling. We should be happy, right? Where do you walk in? Can you imagine working at a bank and you walked in and 20 people flocked up to you and hugged you? So they almost took you off your feet. I'm pretty sure that's not happening at the bank. But maybe if you know, you cash in $1 billion check. But for the most part, right? You walk into your classrooms and you're literally just these little people hugging your legs. You can you're walking like this, you know, there's 10 kids hanging on your leg. At least in my experience. We keep this like joke calendar on our desk. And it's not mine. It belongs to the director. And it has like these like kind of corny dad jokes. But some of them are so good that when I come in the morning, I'll call another center and I'll be very serious. I'll be like, hey, I gotta ask you something. And they're like, yeah. And then I just break out into a joke and like, oh my God, Arky, you're crazy. But like, that might be just how I start my day. No, some professions you can't do that, but ours we can. So again, what we do is serious work, but we don't have to take ourselves so seriously all of the time, right? And so I think that is coming back to the point of why it's so important for you as an educator to be joyous in what you're doing, right? You can't walk in with a brooding face and, you know, because your energy feeds the building, the room, especially if you're the administrator and you walk in and you know, you've always got that kind of face. It's important that we don't do that. So as we talk about leadership, as I bring that up, let's go to our next question. What does true leadership look like in our classrooms and our communities? And how can we lead with empathy, vision, and purpose as we navigate this very quick changing industry that we're in? We want to tackle that one?
I think we have to remember that we are key to every community. A lot of times we are unforgotten, or just, people just kind of push us to the side. And if nothing else out of our lovely COVID experience 5 years ago to the present, we are absolutely behind every other industry. And it's okay for us to try to remember to toot our own horn, to toot our industry's horn, and to just have that key role in the community, because the parents, the families, every employer needs to know what quality early learning looks like. And we get to be at, that pivot point for a lot of our teachers and directors, because they may sometimes forget about it because they are only thinking about maybe the kids in their classroom. So I didn't raise my hand.
It's
I just
okay.
talked. Sorry.
Yvonne, say your name for me again. Is it Yvonne? Is it correct?
Adva.
Okay.
Adva.
Okay.
There you go.
You're next, Alan.
I was just gonna say that also something that you said on my podcast, Erica, was that teachers are also leaders in the classroom. And I think a lot of teachers struggle with that. Something that I've been promoting for a long time, that teachers are actually leaders. So taking that leadership role doesn't mean you have to be in an administrative role or in any kind of leadership position. You can take that leadership inside your classroom. And one more thing to add is just about energy, and the energy that you bring into a school building as a person, whether you're a teacher or administrator, it doesn't really matter. Everybody will feed off of your energy. So if you're in a bad mood, sometimes people will feed off of it, or sometimes a person will just come up to you and say something really nice and switch that energy for you. But if you're coming into school positively, whether you're a teacher or administrator, you're going to get that positivity right back to you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kala.
And to piggy on that, because that was perfect, I'm so glad you went first, because I did not have a good segue, was that as supervisors and directors, we have to trust our team of educators that they are professionals. I have been the supervisor that is questioned, and it's okay to question, but it's not okay to assume they don't know anything. I've worked with a center in the past where the staff were so nervous to do anything. And it came down to everything they did was questioned. And it's okay to question it, but you also have to remind your team, I trust you. You are a professional. You can do this. That's part of being a leader, is you should be able to leave your center and the ship doesn't go down and it stays perfectly afloat, but it takes time. But you have to sometimes help your teachers know that they are leaders.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So how can you tell the difference between a leader and a duck? It's that the leader has people following them. So the duck is just walking out there doing duck stuff. And so if you want to be a leader, you have to turn around and make sure people are following you, which is where we get that concept of servant leadership. And I have been in classrooms where the teacher is not a leader. They are a duck. And they are running around like a duck trying to get other people to be interested in what they're doing. And it's not working because they're trying to be in charge and they're quacking all the time and the kids aren't getting into it. So you want your teachers, you want your administrators to be leaders, not ducks. So people need to be following you for you to be a leader.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jamie.
I think it's also important to look at like the differences between managers and leaders, and that just because someone's a manager, as you said, that doesn't make them a leader. And probably a better manager would have those leadership qualities. And it's that combined passion for education and what we do. Like right now, I would say we're all leaders because not only are we doing this, are we going out and making podcasts, but we're advocating for this incredible field that is the cornerstone, oh my gosh, I can't talk, the cornerstone of the future. It is. We're raising all of these children, and we're making a difference in these communities and in the world. And we're fighting the good fight. And I think that these leadership qualities, they're not easily come across. You have to build on them a lot.
Go ahead, Melissa.
When Jamie was talking, it really occurred to me that oftentimes I say when I'm trying to tell, okay, sorry, my thoughts are not coming out because it's like brewing in my head. Teachers are taught to be managers. Mm-hmm. Teachers are not taught to be leaders. They're taught to manage a classroom. We're taught to be ducks. When you go to teacher school, you're taught and you're praised for good management. Like this is what people are looking for. So this is why I'm thinking it's so difficult for most teachers to step out of that management role and to actually think of themselves as a leader. And unless it comes naturally to you. And because this is what people look for. Oh, your classroom is so quiet. Oh, you control those children so well. Oh, you have such great management skills. Management. That's what they're looking for. And that's what gets praised. So I think that's why there's that disconnect there.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Go ahead, Kate.
Like, oh, I'll try to follow the rules. Okay. I so agree with that statement. And if you think about how many people in our profession have felt that the only way they can demonstrate their knowledge, because we've all had this, well, okay, I won't say all. I would suspect a lot of us online have had at least one relative or friend that makes a comment about how smart we are and why are we in this field. And we try to justify it by getting master's degrees or doctorate degrees or doing something so that we can go, look, we're serious. This is a real industry. We're really professionals. And that management versus leadership is such the like, you got it. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Leadership is not natural for a lot of people. And if you've got a PhD, you've got a doctorate in education, doesn't necessarily make you a leader, but yet every principal, every superintendent, everybody in, education leadership has that doctorate in management. And if you guys are listening to this and you are not currently doing something, but you want to, go find how you can build your authority by demonstrating that you know what you're doing. And it doesn't necessarily require more education, and it doesn't require you to have advanced degrees, because chances are you are making an impact and you know exactly what you're doing. And I applaud you for listening to today's episode, because that means that you are part of that lifelong learning community. So yay for listening, and hopefully you'll connect with all of us and you get to learn more.
Does anybody have anything they want to add to that? So let's talk about mentorship. How can mentorship help people grow as professionals? And how can we support and learn from each other to strengthen our field? One of the things, I think I want to change the language. I don't know how I'm going to do this myself, but that's why I think, having so many folks like you who also have voices and people listen. Why do we even have to identify, and I think I might have said this before we turned to recording, but why do we even have to identify as early childhood professionals? Why can't we just say we're educators? Why is this like hierarchy of a college? Because as soon as, like you said, justifying, right, Kate? You say, I'm an early childhood educator. Oh, you work in a preschool? You work in a daycare? Oh, and immediately you see the body change. No, I'm an educator. It doesn't matter if I work at a high school level, a college professor. It doesn't matter. We're educators, and we teach in a way that's age appropriate for the age that we're working with, right? Just like, so I think we all, as the industry, need to start using that language. To start, I'm an educator, period. Because we do it to ourselves. And so we're not using that language. So how can we expect other people to understand? Carla, I see you, girl. Go ahead, Carla. Go ahead.
So I'm about to ruffle some feathers. So I'm actually going to counter what you're saying. And I want people to say they're an early childhood educator and be damn proud to say it. Because, and this is a running joke in my house, my husband will tell people I'm a teacher. And if you are a teacher, I mean no disrespect, but I have said to my husband, do not tell people I am a teacher. Tell people I'm an early childhood educator, because I am not in the same category. I am not dealing with grade 7 attitudes and grade 8 attitudes. That is a whole nother skill. That is a whole nother industry. I am dealing with the social emotional behavior of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. That is a whole nother skill and a whole nother industry. And if we are not proud when we say, I am an early childhood educator, and I don't care if people go, oh, so you like play all day? Maybe it's a personality thing. I am the first to come at you and be like, yeah, actually I do, because I'm building neural pathways every single day. Is that not incredible what I do as an early childhood educator? Like, I will shut you right up. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, but I guess what I'm saying is educators are educators. Yes, as I had said, it has to be for the age that we're working with, right? So it has to be age appropriate. So yes, that's what it looks like when working with kids who are 3 to 5 or, infant to 5, right? And I think they're working on social skills in high school and in college, by the way. I just think that the respect of saying we are educators, because I think when we divide ourselves is how we get steamed rolled over. We're educators, we all deserve the same respect. Doesn't matter what the tools are that we use, the teaching philosophy that we use. There's this hierarchy that I can't stand, is really my point. I'm very passionate. It doesn't matter what age, right? We all have the ages that we love, and we all have the philosophies and the tools and the skills that we use. But at the end of the day, the respect should be the same. And when we meet folks, no matter if they're early childhood, school age, it doesn't matter to me. To me, we're educators. And so that's my thoughts. Jamie, is your hand raised, honey? Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
No, I think you're both right, because I think it's about actively working to create the systems and policies to ensure that all educators are respected, regardless of what age group. But I also understand, Erica, what you're saying, because you're like, if I say that I'm a teacher, it doesn't matter to people if I'm a high school teacher, elementary school teacher, I'm a teacher. But if I say I'm a teacher or educator and I say ECE, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not a teacher. But the advocacy has such a huge part in this, because we are all fighting to make this, and anyone listening should be fighting to make ECE that it's accepted and generally accepted. Like, yeah, I'm an early childhood educator. I'm an educator. Yeah, that's all.
Go ahead, Kate. I see everybody. I'll get to all of you, I promise. Go ahead, Kate.
Really, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Carrie on the spot, because Carrie has a great story that's a perfect example of this, because there is that difference of perception when you say educator versus ECE versus professor. And Carrie's probably going, which story am I telling? So it's the one from Linda about smart people.
Just that she said, you're too smart to be doing that work. You should, are you sure you want to work in early childhood? You're too smart for that. And I was like, so you want dumb people working with with human beings in their most vulnerable stages and when they are most able to build cognitive function? You want dumb people doing that? And she was like, well, when you put it that way, no.
Okay. So what is the background of the person who asked you that question? You don't have to but
well, she was a high school English teacher, and then an attorney, and an attorney who was very well known in their field, an assistant attorney general for the state. Yeah, pretty well.
Kayla, did you have your hand up? I know you did. She goes on against spicy. She's like, let's do it.
Hell yeah. I should have brought my wooden spoon. No, I was just going to say, I think one of the challenges that we have as early childhood educators is our job is unfortunately seen as the one that any woman can do, right? First of all, we are predominantly female. Holy, I'm having the same problem of ideas in there. They're just not making their way out properly. Not to say that that is a problem, but unfortunately, that does get looked down upon a lot, right? And because we are working with children, because we do tasks, for lack of better words, like wiping noses, like diaper changing, like helping potty train, it's seen as not being important, and therefore, again, the glorified babysitter, right? This is, oh, you're an early child educator. I literally had somebody say to me, and
I'm hoping this is not going to sound too vulgar on here, but I literally said to somebody one time, I'm an early childhood educator, and the exact words out of their mouth was, "Oh, so you wipe asses for a living?" I'm like, "Yeah." And like, bro, what is this, right?
Go ahead, Susie.
And so do proctologists. I just want to say, so do proctologists.
Just make more. Go ahead, Susie.
So I think we're all on the same page here, and I really feel that this is something that we all have to deal with. And this is the reality of the situation. We're all educators, yes, but there is a pecking order, right? There's a hierarchy. If you teach at the university level, you're a better teacher. If you teach at the high school and then elementary, and then we're at the very bottom because we teach the youngest of children. So there is that order, and we got to realize that. But that doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that's what people believe, and we can change those perceptions. And we have to do that as a community by leveling up our profession. No, we're not babysitters. We are educators. I think language matters. So when we say daycare provider, that kind of a little bit irks me, because we're not daycare providers, we're educators, and I always use that language. And we have to get used to using that language, that we're not just providers of daycare. We are educating at every level, and I really believe the first 6 years are the most important. They're more important than the university years. So that should be the order. The order is, ECEs first, and then the other teachers, as far as, affecting the brain and changing how the brain works and all of that. So we're all, on the same page. I understand that, but we have to understand there's that perception out there, and we have to change that perception.
Marcia?
There we go. Now I can unmute my mic. So, love listening to all other perspectives. That's the point of having different perspectives and to be able to have this conversation. Let's think about now the mentorship piece. We're in a room full of wonderful educators with years and years of knowledge. How do we bring it out to the sector that needs us, that needs this voice, that needs the appropriate language, that needs us to articulate what's okay for our profession? Because like you said, it's us. It starts with us. We need to be the ones that start the conversation. And that goes through the mentorship process, through our leaders, through our childcare providers on the floor. It starts with us. We have to be able to be the ones. We've all started podcasts for a reason. That mentorship process is key right now. As a professor and going through what's coming out as our new educators in the field, we do not want to be afraid what's coming in the field. We want to trust these people with the children and their development. So we need to arm them with the right tools. And that is the proper language and the support they need when they need it. Not being retroactive, but proactive in this situation. That's what I wanted to say.
I love it. Yes, sweetheart. Shaping Little Minds, you're next.
Love that. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Marcia was saying, because I find that the new teachers who I do speak to, who come into the coaching program with me, do not have the tools that they need to be able to succeed in a classroom. And it drives me crazy, because you go to school for teaching and you think that school is going to prepare you to be a classroom teacher. And then you are thrown all of these crazy obstacles when you're in the classroom. And so many times these teachers do not get the support that they need. Something that what I really want to do is bring that piece into the mentorship world, which is helping the college students who are coming from that education program and bridging that gap into the classroom so that they can have the tools to stay in the classroom and to feel successful in the classroom. And I think a big part of that is, that's why we're losing so many teachers. These teachers are coming from college thinking that this is what they want to do. And then they go into the classroom and they are met with so many different challenges and obstacles that they just don't know how to deal with and don't necessarily get the support to be able to handle. So they say, okay, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to say goodbye at the end of the year.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I love how you threw in that support piece, because it really goes back to everything that we're talking about here. But it's funny how much early childhood educators, we support families and we support the children, but then looking at us, like, where is that support? Where is the educator support coming from. And I mean, obviously it's us advocating, but what else is out there to support us? There's like, unless we're fighting the good fight for ourselves, it's not there.
Yeah, Jamie, I think that's probably why I thought this would be a great topic for our very first roundtable, because it is so important. And, you know, it isn't just the teachers, it's the administration too. They don't always have the tools that they need. And many times that the admins have been promoted, you know, they were teachers for a long period of time and they've done a great job as an educator. And now you are now responsible for everything, everyone. You're supposed to have the solution for every question that's ever asked of you. And you don't have, you know, we talked about, you know, the difference between a leader and a manager, and you may have managed things, you know, tasks pretty well to get promoted, but maybe you really haven't had the opportunity to develop your leadership skills. And so we're seeing that too. And I know Kate and Carrie, as they go train directors all over the country, many of these folks are folks who didn't have the business side of education, because it is a business too for most of us, right? So there's just so many pieces. So yeah, where does the support come? We have to advocate, but then there also has to be like, what's the action? Because we can talk all day. Everybody here knows the problem, right? We got to start figuring out what are some of the solutions and who are the people who can help us move that forward. Melissa, hold on, Carrie, I see you. Melissa, did you have something you want to add, honey? I didn't want to hop over you if you had raised your hand.
No, it's okay. It was mostly just kind of sharing the same kind of story. There's something interesting going on in New York City right now, which might be sort of the action, but it is becoming really kind of problematic. And I feel like it kind of fits into this piece. So, you know, New York City being the biggest public school system has started to implement funding into childcare systems, right? Which I know has happened in many cities. But this was also partly, and early childhood educators were excited about it because it was going to help sort of legitimize some early childhood education. But it's also become really problematic because there are all of these different pieces as we've actually been talking about, because now it's become this continuous piece where they're saying, do this creative curriculum. Everybody has to do this. It has to look exactly the same. So now we're asking childcares that are being funded by the public school system to do the exact same work that I'm doing, where I'm getting paid a massive amount more money than these teachers are getting paid. I'm not going to lie. My salary is online. I get paid 6 figures. These teachers and these childcares don't get paid anywhere near that. And that's just one piece of all of this, right? The pay where they're asking to do the same work. They don't get my union preps. They don't get my union contracts. But then also, I have a huge problem with making the continuity piece across every single classroom. I don't want my classroom to look exactly the same as somebody else's classroom and as somebody else's classroom. My children should not be studying trees because I'm being told to study trees. What if they're not interested in trees? Right? So that's like another whole piece. And so I feel like in one way, they're trying to put the action into place, and then they're trying to help this by adding in these mentors from the Department of Early Childhood Education. But then they don't have the tools because they're coming down. Some of them were teachers, but they're being told from the district. And it's just, again, sort of the hierarchy of like things happening and exploding. And maybe I'm just like putting New York City on the spot here, but it's not necessarily working because it works in one area, or it works with one school because of one mentor is really great. And then one teacher like accepts it, but then it's not working with another mentor because one mentor is just really coming down the pipe. You know, it's really interesting. And I don't know, like I said, it sort of fits into all this because it's a little bit of the action.
It's the future. So
But
it's a conversation for sure.
Yeah.
We could do a whole hour on that.
All of it.
Kayla, I see.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to think about all of that and how it kind of could look.
Yeah.
And how it could probably be a
Kayla,
lot
I see
better.
you, but Carla had her hand first. Go ahead, Carla. Oh, were you just waving your hands around? Huh? Clap it. Okay, go ahead, Kayla.
Okay.
I was going to say, Melissa, I think you bring up such a good point. And I think one of the issues that we have is we're always trying to, I think it comes back to this idea of proving ourselves, right? Like we need to prove that we are doing good. We need to prove that our job is of value. We need to prove that children are learning something. So if something is working in classroom A, well, then it must be working in every single one. We seem to have, especially when it comes to like administrators or heads, there seems to be this disconnection of understanding that there is, children are individual beings and we cannot treat them with this robotic mindset, right? I know I'll give a perfect example here in BC alone, right? There is this huge push that every has to be Reggio inspired and Reggio, and that's great. Like I have nothing against that, but the disconnect is Reggio means nothing in British Columbia because you're trying to come at it from an Italian perspective. This is not Italy. This is BC, right? Completely different histories, countries, societies, like mind, mentalities, whatever. And the other thing that I have a hard time with is that majority of times when we're trying to implement these ideas, they're coming from an extremely privileged lens, right? Like for example, like again, I'll use British Columbia very specifically. I'll narrow it down to Metro Vancouver, where we have this idea that what they're doing in the big universities with the $1 million of funding is what everybody across the board should be doing. That would be great if I also had $1 million worth of funding. I could do that as well, but I don't. I have to work with what I have. And most importantly, my children are not predominantly, privileged. They're not predominantly white. They're not, there are centers where children come to school maybe with an empty stomach. There are children who come to school. I had dinner with a friend a couple of weeks ago who talked about working with children who lived in shelters and, working with children who came from abusive backgrounds, and childcare was the one place where they had safety. And so it wasn't about, pedagogy and pedagogical narrations and all this wonderful airy-fairy stuff. It was about, is this the only place where they can get their basic needs met? And is this the one place where they can feel safe? If I have done that, I've done my job.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Kayla. Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, so my brain has like stuff I want to talk about from Marcia and Kayla and Melissa. And so I'm going to see if I can get it all into one thought process, which is that regardless of where you're finding the mentor, whether the mentor is your college professor, the head of your college department, is your mama, is the director at your school, is a coach or consultant like some of us are, you have to find one that works for you and for the type of program you're in. And this is the part that I sometimes have a challenge with, is that mentor needs to be someone who has been in a program recently that makes some sort of connection to the type of program you're in. I've taken, ECE classes at Harvard. And you know what? My professors, I don't think, have been in a classroom with children for 35 years. And I get all of the pedagogical wonderfulness. But if that professor has not had to deal with post-COVID kids and Gen Z employees, I don't need them to be trying to mentor me because they don't know what's happening in the real. And if they're still spouting Freud and anal retentive, I don't need to hear from them, because all that stuff's been disproven. Like, I need mentors who have lived the real with kids recently. If the last time they were in an early childhood classroom was in a lab school in 1985 at the university, then that's not who your mentor should be. Your mentor needs to have been in programs that have some similarities to the program you're working in or the type of program you want to work in, and have done it at least in this century. It would be great if they've done it in this decade. Like that's what I want for people when they're looking for a mentor. So you can go hire people who have their MBA in organizational leadership, but does that help your school? Do they understand it?
Yeah.
My dad, my grandfather, PhDs, I respect the work you have to do to get those advanced degrees. But, my dad uses it as a way to sort his mail. Anything that comes to his name, PhD, or doctor his name, he knows he doesn't need to open that email or that mail. But we have to find mentors who resonate with us. And if you're somebody who's all about the research, go find that PhD, but please find one who's actually touched children in the most recent decade in a good way, like touched them emotionally, cognitively, not in a creepy way. Sorry, that came out weird.
Go ahead, Susie.
So that sparked something when you were speaking, Carrie, about mentorship. And I was thinking about, in our centers, we have experienced educators and we have new educators. And Marcia touched on the fact that, we have a lot of new educators coming out of the college system right now who don't feel equipped to manage a classroom, don't feel equipped to lead a classroom. And I was thinking about, okay, so we have experienced people out there and then we have new people. And how do we get them to work together and learn from each other? Because I know the experienced educators can work from can learn from the new ones because they've got new ideas. They haven't been in school for a long time. Maybe they don't know the new strategies. And then we have newer educators who could learn from the experienced ones who, have lots of experience on how to deal with different kinds of issues that come up in a classroom and how to lead. And so how do we get them to work together and learn from each other, I think is the key, right? And that's, I guess, what I'd like to hear about too, if you guys have any ideas.
I have all kinds of ideas.
Go ahead, Carla.
I love this question, and the segue was perfect. I think if you are a seasoned professional, we, first of all, have to be open to your point, to learning from the new grads. Like I think about from when I was in school, I was trained as a theme-based educator, and I was getting students that were play-based trained 10 years in, and it opened my eyes. So I think, one, we have to be open for sure, but also we can't assume that the new grads are excited to be here. We would love for them to all come and be excited to be here, but part of our journey as the mentor, I think, is finding out why they're here and not writing them off if, mom picked their career path, but not writing them off, but helping them see the joy in the industry because they're in our profession, because we don't know how they got there. So love your question.
And Marcia.
Carrie said something that was amazing, and that is you have to find the right mentor. With that being said, not everybody's meant to be a mentor. Okay? Us veteran educators out there, not all of us are equipped to take on students. You might not be in that part of your journey yourself, and that's okay. Then don't take the student, pass it on to someone else, right? We do not want to do a disservice either, because we're trying to grow a profession. So make sure that you and your mentee, if you are taking on, that you are prepared and ready to take them on. Because yes, that comes with you having that responsibility as well. And again, I'm going to say it, not everybody's a mentor. Okay, so find who works with you, works for you, and is there to push you, grow, and watch you flourish and thrive. Or else it's not going to be worth it.
Melissa, go ahead.
I was just sort of about to say that, like Carla and Marcia kind of said what I was going to say. So we do that in our public school system. When you have a brand new teacher, you're required to go through a certain of 40 hours or something like that of mentoring from a teacher who is on your grade level, who has a certain number of years of experience. And that was me one time, and I totally beefed it. I was terrible. But out of that experience also, I learned that the mentor also, or the mentee also needs to want to be mentored. So now maybe in our situation, because of the way that it's set up, it's kind of like an arranged marriage, right? So probably in the situations that we're talking about, we're choosing and picking and choosing. So all the points that everybody has made are wonderful points. But yeah, so just, right? Not everybody's meant to be one, but you can always hone your skills by just communicating and talking and thinking about it and having time to go about it. So the arranged marriage can work because I've done it again and I did much better the second time around. But I love the fact that I was kind of pushed into it because I had never really thought about doing it until I had to. And I actually, it took me into a direction and actually sort of in this direction, which I never thought I was actually going to go.
I think the other thing is when you talk about mentorship, I think that, we said the word journey. And for me, I feel like you should yourself always have a mentor and somebody that you're working with, right? Somebody that inspires you to push yourself to be your best self. And it doesn't matter if you've been in the field for a week or you've been in the field for 30 years. I think, always finding those people who motivate and inspire you and, are in the places that you want to go, right? And so I think it's important that we, as seasoned professionals, as Khaled said, that we also continue to get that mentorship and to continue to, be hungry for whatever that next thing is for us in our journey. And I know so many of you are on that path now. You're either you're coaching other folks, or you're mentoring, or, started multiple businesses or whatever that looks like, because that's also another thing that we are seeing in the early childhood education field, or educators in general starting these additional businesses, becoming consultants for school departments, or just the new folks coming in, or I think we all have this kind of sense of leaving some type of a legacy, because those of us in this industry really are called to that, giving all that you can before you leave on into the night, however that looks like for you. But yeah, I think these are all really amazing points that you ladies have made. Is there anything anybody wants to add to that last question? Okay. This is going to be our last question as we start to wrap it up. This is one that Jamie had brought up. We throw the word advocacy around a lot. What does advocacy mean to you? And, in real life, and how do we raise our voices in support of what we're doing here, right? Because we could have a whole nother show on the challenges. We know the challenges. We know the challenges, right? Kate, go ahead. I'll let you take the lead.
Thank you. So I was an after-school alliance ambassador, so I'm considered an ambassador emeritus. And that was its second year of creating this national advocacy system for out-of-school time in the United States. So in 2004. And one of the things that really hit home during that time period, and I sit here and kind of reflect on it after 20 years of watching things not really change the way we had all hoped for them to change on a larger scale. But what I can absolutely say is that advocacy work at a local level and even a state level is the only place it's going to start. So although we might all want huge, changes on our own national level, we do have to remember that we can change it at the community level and that we can change it at the state level. And that advocacy is really educating those not in the industry. And the only way we're all going to do that is together and en masse. So I love the question, and I love the fact that we have 10 people on this call who are willing to do that education. And our podcasts are a great way to share that information. So glad that Erica brought us all together. Anyway, I'm done.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think though it's getting the educators who are in our field who think they can do nothing to change what the perception of ECE is to believe that they can do it. And it's collectively coming together to do that. I think defending and standing up for our value of work as educators, for fighting for the fair wages, for fighting for professional development opportunities that aren't during our own time that's actually paid for by the government or by the cities, whoever, the people that have the money pay for them. and the working conditions we're in and getting that support, but it's letting people like those people who are working with us also know that they have a voice, and sharing it is super powerful.
Yeah. Good, Carla.
I also think even on like a smaller level, because when I used to speak to my staff about advocating for early childhood education, this look of just like sheer like fear would come over them, because they would think that the next thing that was going to come was me having them make giant signs and go stand on Parliament Hill. And while that is advocating, that doesn't have to be the only advocating. Like, you can be an introvert, which clearly I'm not, but you can be an introvert and still advocate. But it's about us being so excited about what we do. I can honestly say that excitement is contagious, and that's probably the thing that has worked in my best interest of gaining respect as an early childhood educator, is when I talk about my position as an early childhood educator in a positive and excited way. So it's changing words like I have to I get to. I get to spend my week with 4-year-olds studying the wind, because that's what we were interested in this week. So getting excited and sharing what we do with people, I mean, that's where podcasts, social media, like, we don't have to have pictures of the children to be able to post what we're doing on social media and to be proud of it.
Good, Kayla.
I was going to say, I think all 10 of us are also in a very unique position where clearly we have these platforms where we can have, where we can talk and we're trying to get our voice out there, but also, and I think many of us do this already, but using our platforms to give a voice to those who feel voiceless, right? To those who maybe don't feel like they can say much because they're tied to a company or they're tied to this childcare or, for whatever reason. I know one of the things that works really well is giving people the, abilities to word what they need to say, but also keep them anonymous. That gives them so much power because they're able to say what they're feeling, what's on their mind, or even just vent out the frustrations or the changes that they want to see without feeling like they're going to get prosecuted by their employer, by somebody who may not agree with them.
Good, Melissa.
I would say when I think about advocacy too, tiny things can be advocacy. Like, I advocated for a longer period of play in my classroom by asking to switch my prep. Like, my prep time is when the children go to like their music class or to their outside gym class. And it was in the middle of I was at 10:30 in the morning, which was chopping up their playtime. And so at one point in the year I went to my principal and was like, hey, can I have this at 8:45 in the morning? Which gave me a 2.5-hour stretch of time. And she said, well, I'll work on the schedule. And she was like, I can't give it to you this year, but then she gave it to me next year. And it's been like that every year since then.
Awesome.
And just something like that advocated for, my philosophy and for my children.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, I wanted to say that what ADVA does is a form of advocacy. She's helping the teachers take what they know and leverage it into how they can do it in the classroom, and helping them advocate in communicating with their administrative team about what they need and what their classroom needs. So it can be supporting other people on your team can be advocacy, or it can be rolling up on your city council or your legislators. So you can go as big or as small as you want. And I think we tend to just think about I went and dealt with, the head of this, that, or the other thing. But a lot of times the advocating is advocating for a child in your classroom to help their parent understand this child needs an assessment, or advocating for a teacher and helping them own their own power and own their own professionalism.
Susie?
Yeah, I was going to take it sort of on the same sort of similar level. I was going to say, sometimes when we think advocacy, we think big, right? We think, okay, like Carla said, we have to go to the government, doorstep and advocate, which I have done actually. But that's not always what is needed. Like, sometimes it's like you said, the little things, right? Like even just as an educator, you think, okay, what impact do I have? But you've got parents that come to your classroom all the time, and that's advocacy. Like, you talking to parents and even just educating them about different things about their child is advocacy for that child. So you are an advocate all the time, every day in your classroom, even just every little thing you do with the parents that you see every day. And that to me is even bigger, because you're influencing the public, you're influencing perceptions, and just influencing how that child develops, right?
Yvonne?
My first thought when you said advocacy was really on a much smaller level, which a lot of people have said, and that is advocating for your children in the classroom. This year I'm back in the classroom, and I have one child who needs help, a lot of help. And it's really challenging because we have 14 other kids we have to focus on. And part of what me and my co-teacher are doing is really just going to the parent, going to the director, and making sure that things are getting taken care of so that this child can have his needs met. And as Carla said, you can be an introvert and still advocate. I am the biggest introvert. I am the biggest homebody, but I still advocate for my students. And now I took on the role of advocating for teachers and the support that they need to get inside their classrooms.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add to that? No? Okay, great.
Go big or
Yeah.
go small.
Just do
go the way that feels comfortable
Just
to
do
you.
something.
If you're big mouth like Kate and me and a couple of other people who are like, yes, I will walk up to a legislator and tell them stuff, then do that. But if you're somebody who's like, I would like to advocate for people who are under 2 feet tall, then advocate for people who are under 2 feet tall. It doesn't matter. It's still owning the fact that you're a professional, and as a professional, you have a responsibility to speak up for other people who can't. And by definition, the kids we're working with can't.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
And with that being said, don't forget to advocate for you. We're so quick to advocate for everybody else, but we cannot forget to advocate for you.
For sure. All right. So here's how we're going to wrap some of this up. Jamie, the Forgotten EC, give us a 1.5 second commercial about your podcast.
Okay, so the Forgotten EC is a podcast all about the Forgotten ECs, focusing on before and after school programs, school age programs, summer camp, March break, all of the above. And in a wider sense, anyone who is in the EC program or in the EC sector and they feel forgotten. We're doing big things over there. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. And if you're looking to find me, you can find me on Instagram at MissJamie_RECE.
Awesome. And the ECE Classroom with Susie. Tell folks a little bit about your podcast.
Thank you. So the ECE Classroom is a fairly new podcast. It's just in the first season, so we just started it out this year. And my format is to bring guests on the show. So I welcome all of you to come out and, be heard by my listeners. And I just tackle any ECE topic. So as I mentioned, I'm a daycare owner, so I have 3 daycare centers. And so I canvass my ECEs every day and say, what topics do you want to hear? What do you want to know more about? And those are the topics that make my episodes of the ECE Classroom.
The coolest things. Where are you from, Susie?
So I'm in, Greater Toronto area, let's say, in Toronto, Canada.
And Jamie, where are you from?
Stratford, Ontario, Canada. So just south of Toronto.
All right. Next, we have Kayla at ECE. Honestly, go ahead, give us a scoop about your podcast.
Thank you. So I'm Kayla Papalia from ECE Honestly, and my podcast is all about, again, talking about the issues that we may not want to talk about in the world of early childhood education. Sometimes they're hard to swallow, pills that are hard to swallow, but I think they're necessary conversations to have, because unless we're willing to have these hard conversations, we are not going to see growth in our field. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at ECE Honestly. You can also check me out on my in-home multi-age childcare page. It is Blossoming Niños, and you can find us on Instagram and on Facebook. And same thing. If anybody out there listening or any of you here have anything that they'd like to say, or any topics that they want to discuss that they feel are important, give me a shout out, and I'm more than happy to set that up.
Kayla, where are you located?
I am all the way west of Susie and Jamie. I'm in Port Moody, so that's a suburb of Vancouver.
Okay. And my friend over here at Shaping Little Minds of Vid.
I'm Adva. I am the host of Shaping Little Minds podcast. Shaping Little Minds is really just giving teachers bite-sized implementable tools and strategies to use inside of their classroom. I do a mix of solo and guest episodes. I have definitely had some of you on the podcast. And I am located in the US in New Jersey.
Nice. Melissa.
So my podcast is Pre-K Spot Talks. It's basically an everything early childhood variety podcast, but through a play-based lens. And I've just recently started doing interviews, so everybody is welcome. So I do a mix of solo and interviews, and you can find me at prek.spot on Instagram, and I am located in the great city of New York.
Awesome. Carla.
So my podcast is the Everything ECE podcast. Pretty much in the name, we literally talk about everything ECE. I'm located in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto, Canada, and you can find us on any podcasting platform. And if you want to find me on Instagram at EL Foundations for Early Learning Foundations, I would love to chat.
Okay, next we have Kate.
Well, I'll do the first half. I'll let Carrie do the second half. So you can find us on any of the social media platforms from YouTube, etc., at Childcare Conversations. So real easy. And Carrie can tell you what we're about.
Oh, okay. So we talk about all kinds of different things for early childhood leadership. Most of ours have a tendency to be for directors, owners, and managers. The first year, I don't think we had a single guest on our podcast because we had 30 years worth of pent up stuff we needed to talk about. And now we have a lot of guests because we've purged some of that stuff. And so we talk about stuff from insurance to toilet learning to talking to parents, marketing, all of that kind of stuff. And we always are looking for guests, just like the rest of you guys. So we'd love to have each and every one of you on. We even have a place where you can apply. Kate can email Kate at childcareconversations.com.
It's actually and Carrie at childcareconversations.com.
Okay, fine. You have to spell out the word and she'll get you all those links, or you can just message her anywhere. I don't take that monkey. That's her monkey. And we just love supporting directors and owners. And I didn't say we're also authors like Susie. We've written a few books over the past few years.
Yeah.
You can get those on Amazon or at your local bookseller. There we go.
Okay, and my friend Marcia at I Spy to Educate.
I'm Marcy Nicole, and my podcast is called the Inspiring ECE Podcast. On the podcast, I talk a lot about inspiring, motivating, and just empowering educators to continue in a profession they absolutely love. I've recently just started to have guests on, and we talk about all things early childhood education. But mostly, we're there to inspire and motivate, especially on those rough and challenging days. That podcast in your ears, hopefully it brings you a smile. So I'm hoping that I have all of you lovely individuals on my podcast to share all of these juicy nuggets. And definitely follow me on Instagram. I'm on all of your platforms for podcasts wherever you listen. And I can't wait to keep growing this wonderful community.
Thank you so much, ladies. I am Erica Sakosha with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. I have a podcast and a very quickly growing YouTube channel that I'm very excited about. And this beautiful episode will also be hosted on there. It's the Child Care Director's Chair podcast, super easy to find. And we really wanted to create this ECE Power Hour to offer a space for all of our early childhood educators where we can reflect, recharge, and grow together. All of our voices together really, really matter. And so we hope that you got that point today. If you are an ECE professional out there, an early childhood professional, school-age professional, college professor, don't worry, we still love you too. You're welcome to come on our show as well. We will be doing this once a month. So if you're interested, you're a podcaster and you have something to say, please hit me up. Child Care Director's Chair, super easy to find me. All the places, social media, you got it. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we love you. Have a great day.